With squatting, you may have been told that pushing your knees over your toes or squatting below parallel is going to make your knees explode. But you also might have heard that pushing the knees over the toes cures every movement issue that you'll ever have ever. So who's right? This video is going to answer which is the best way to squat and, most importantly, how to improve your squats so you get more out of the exercise and it's more comfortable. The old saying was that if you squat below parallel or you push your knees over your toes, it ends up putting too much strain through the knee joint and may compromise the patella or kneecap. And in fact, this study right here shows that deeper knee flexion or knee bending increases stress in the knee, and if we shift our weight backwards in a squat, it offloads the knee joint and increases the load through the hips, which there's bigger muscles in the hips, so perhaps they can tolerate those loads. But how much load actually goes through the knee if we do squat deep? This study by Gullett et al. Looked at just that. They measured how much compression happens in the knee joint with a back squat and a front squat. In a back squat, there's about 11 newtons per kilogram of pressure, and a front squat has about 9 newtons per kilogram of pressure. But how much is that? The answer is not that much. If you look at this study right here, which looked at how much compression happens in the spine during a 1.5 times body weight deadlift, the numbers range from as low as 3,000 newtons all the way up to about 7,300 newtons. That's significantly more loading with a lift that we do all the time compared to the amount of stress that happens in the knee joint. Okay, Zach, there's not a whole lot of load going through the knee in a squat, but surely if we break parallel, it's got to be really bad for our knees, right? If you look at this cluster of studies right here, the most compressive load in the knee joint is actually at 90 to 100 degrees of knee flexion, which is squatting to parallel. And in fact, that knee loading decreases as we break parallel for a few different reasons. When we flex the knee, our calf muscles and hamstring muscles contact one another, called the thigh-shank contact. That actually gaps the knee joint, which reduces the compressive loads. Also, when we bend the knee, the quad tendon contacts the intercondylar notch, which acts like a wrap for our knees, again reducing the stress load. Moreover, once I bend my knees past 120 degrees, I have reduced articular facet contact, meaning there's increased space between the joints. When there's more space between the joint surfaces, there's less compressive load, and it's actually safer for our knees. So because of those factors, everyone should squat all the way down, right? Maybe. We can't make the blanket statement that everyone should squat all the way down. What if you have limited knee mobility? Or what if your hip mobility is limited? For me to squat all the way, I have to have my ability for my hips to flex maximally. They should have adequate rotation about them, and we should be able to see ankle dorsiflexion. Now, I've worked with a lot of people in my day as a physical therapist, and the number that I've seen who have adequate motion to squat that low without problems is pretty small. But that doesn't mean that we can't coach ourselves to be able to squat progressively lower. Because if we can do that, it actually will increase loading through the legs. Squatting all the way down actually allows for increased glute max activity, and being able to squat lower than you could before actually can be a useful strategy for increasing overall mobility. But we have to grade ourselves into that position. We need a strategy that helps us restore our hip flexion. In order for us to flex the hips or bring the thigh to the abdomen, we have to create an eccentric position of the glutes, the lower half of the glutes or the posterior lower portion of the pelvis, as well as the upper. And you have to address this bottom part before you go up top. Here's the progression that I use to get people prepped to squat lower. Step 1, get the lower portion of the pelvis to become eccentric or relaxed. For that, we're going to use a box squat. Here's your keys for that. You want to get a plate because the plate's going to give you a counterweight to shift the hips back. Start looking to the horizon, unlock the knees. You're going to silently breathe in through your nose. On the exhale, reach the plate forward and get the hips back without locking the knees out. From here, you're gonna inhale, sit down onto the box without rocking back. Exhale, stand up. I'm looking out as far as I can the whole time. I'll drill that move for 3 to 4 rounds of 6 to 8 reps when I'm first learning how to squat. Eventually, after a few weeks, that can transition to the warm-up where you'll do about 2 rounds, 8 to 10 reps. You can then progress the box squat to your primary loaded variation of the squat, either utilizing dumbbells at your sides or even something like a safety squat bar. For that, you could go 3 to 4 rounds, anywhere from 6 to 12 reps. While you're progressing your strength in that move, that's prime time to start the progression to squatting well below parallel. But in order to easily squat deep, you're gonna need some help, and that help's gonna come from a piece of equipment. That piece of equipment is a ramp. The ramp helps shift your weight backwards, making sure that you still continue to get load into the hips without too much stress in the knees. It also promotes more external rotation to occur throughout the hips and the pelvis while limiting ankle motion. All of those factors will allow you to squat deeper than you would otherwise. What you're gonna do is you're gonna start with the knees soft, weight through the whole foot, look to the horizon, silent in through the nose, exhale, reach the bell forward, torso is gonna come back a little bit. Make sure as you're doing this that you're not straightening the arms. From here, you're gonna inhale through the nose silently. Think knees forward, butt down. Exhale, come back up, making sure the whole foot stays flat. In order to make sure you don't put much strain on the knees, you want to ensure that you keep your weight through the inside heel and the base of the big toe. Most people will run into problems if the heels come up or you see the feet dive in excessively. You want to think about it being awareness through those 2 points and maintain that over the course of the lift. Perform this squat variation for 3 to 4 rounds, 6 to 8 reps in the beginning. Eventually, you can progress that to heavier weights using something like a Zercher squat or a sandbag squat. And the terminal progression would be working towards a front squat, which is probably the easiest way to still be able to squat deep while getting a lot of load into the legs. Now, if your squat is starting to feel pretty good, but you're noticing that your deadlift or your hinge exercises are still a little bit of a struggle, then I would check out this video right here where I go into some of the common errors seen when performing deadlifts and how to fix them.